Alright, today I've got opened up a tune from a 2012 Mustang GT. I'm in the spark tab in the knock sensor section right here. The purpose of the knock sensor on an internal combustion engine is to keep combustion stable and keep that motor out of pre-ignition or detonation. This is critical for any engine that's going to be running pump gas or inconsistent octane fuel, as it varies from station to station. It's also critical for boosted applications. And in these tables that I'm going to show you today, I'm going to show you the authority the knock sensor has to add or subtract timing overall from your output ignition timing. In this general tab, we have the configuration. The vehicle is fitted with 2 knock sensors, and then in this table here, it's got the configuration or assignment of knock sensors to cylinders. Over here we've got the knock threshold. This is basically a filter that the factory has set. This filter, it will pull out all the surrounding noise from the valve train, the engine, the reciprocating mass. It pulls all those values, those noise values aside, and then it will single out a knock event because it has a specific frequency. The calibration in these tables is specific per cylinder. If I were to click through the different cylinder tabs here, we would see that these values change throughout. So that noise floor changes cylinder to cylinder. I typically do not modify these, but there are instances if you're a boosted car, you've got a noisy blower, maybe you have a very aggressive cam package, your valve train's noisy, and the car starts to pick up false knock. Those are some instances where you might look into desensitizing these sensors here. Now, the knock sensor, if you desensitize it, you're going to raise these values. So I'm just going to key this in as an example. I'm going to raise it 5%. Now, to make it more sensitive, you will lower these values that the factory has set in here. And I'm in the wrong button. There we go. Like I said, typically I leave these tables alone. Okay, so now I'm in the retard tab here. And right here we've got a global setting. It's got a drop down menu. And we've got a per cylinder, and then we've got a global. The factory tune on this particular vehicle has it set to a global. And what this means is if there's a knock event detected, it will pull spark advance equally from all 8 cylinders. And if you were to switch it to a per cylinder, if there was a knock event, for example, on cylinder 2, it would only pull timing or retard timing from that cylinder 2. Now, the rate here is a multiplier. So the higher the number right here, the faster it will pull timing advance from the motor. Then we have our enable section here. Enable section just shows the parameters, the operating window that the motor has to be in. So you can see it's got a temperature and an RPM window here. Then we have a recovery rate normal. Now, the recovery rate normal is the rate of return after a knock event. A higher number is going to slow the recovery, and a lower number is going to allow that spark advance to recover faster. And that goes the same here with the rate fast. Now we've got a amount fast, and what this is, there's a process loop, and at the end of that process loop, if there's no knock detected, it will add half a degree of timing. It'll run the loop process again, and if no knock is detected, it will then add another half a degree until it reaches the constraints of your knock advanced limit table here. As you can see, this one, it varies from 8 degrees to 2 degrees. Typically on a boosted application, you're not going to want this table to have this kind of authority. You definitely don't want to be in 5, 6, whatever pounds of boost and have the knock sensor say, hey, let's go ahead and add 8 degrees of timing. What I like to do is I usually bring these all down. I'll set these maybe to 2 or 1, depending on the situation. And then we've got our maximum retard here. And This here varies at the higher loads from a -4 to a -6. I like to leave these values slightly conservative just to allow some flexibility in case you were to get a bad tank of gas. So I'll either leave these values alone or slightly adjust them, but I don't usually deviate too far from the factory on these particular settings. Alright, and then very last, the fast mode right here. You've got fast mode events and fast mode transient events. These are just thresholds that kick the vehicle in and out of fast mode to normal mode. I don't typically mess with those. Anyways, I think that wraps up our knock sensor section. Hope you learned something.